have your attention, I think we'll go ahead and get started. If you want to find a seat. Well, good morning, everyone. Now, you should say good morning with a little more enthusiasm than that, because you're probably not cutting ice this morning. So, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Hey, it's really good to have everyone here today to discuss what we feel is a very important topic as it pertains to agriculture. We say every time that agriculture is the number one industry in the state, and certainly our beef industry is a leader among segments in agriculture, and it's very important that you're here to be a part of this discussion. We have 265 people pre-registered for this beef summit. It was something that the governor had started to talk to us in the Department of Agriculture about probably 9 or 10 months ago. And this has come together pretty quickly. When we decided we wanted to bring industry leaders together to talk about the beef industry and how can we move the beef industry forward and move Missouri beef up the value chain, this came together pretty quickly. So to have that kind of turnout really speaks volumes to what we are all of us in this room are trying to do, and that's to improve Missouri's beef industry. It's going to be live streamed. This entire summit today is going to be streamed live. Folks all across the state can watch this if you're not able to be here, and we've kind of put the word out about that. So again, a true testament to the commitment of the industry and the industry leaders. We've got a full day today, and it's again something we're very excited about. And we are really pleased with the folks who said yes, they would be a part of our panels today. We've got a pretty wide-ranging area of topics that we're going to talk about in our panels. And when we reached out to folks to see if they would participate, we had just incredible response and a lot of excitement from people who said that they would. So I think you're going to enjoy today. I think you're going to learn a lot today, and hopefully at the end of the day, we can kind of come to some conclusion or some direction that we want to do as it pertains to beef. I think there's just an incredible opportunity to not only put more value in beef producers' pockets, but put more value and raise the economy of Missouri. And I think that's critically important. We're going to talk a lot about where we rank as a cow-calf state with other states in the nation, and then what happens to those cattle after we do such a fantastic job as cow-calf producers. What happens to those cattle and where they go, and how can we move up that value chain? It's something very important conversations, very important topic today. So again, thank you all so much for being here. To kick off the beef summit, and again, I mentioned that the governor had asked this question, I would say about 10 months ago. I've been on the job now just a little over a year, and not very long into my tenure, the governor asked, what are we doing for beef as a state? What kind of emphasis are we placing on it, and what can we do to help the industry? And I said, well, Governor, I don't know that we're doing that much from a state standpoint. Cattle producers go out, they do their work, and they do an awesome job doing that, all aspects and all segments of the beef industry. But what could we do? So we started looking at the Department of Agriculture. We started looking at what could we do, and we made a lot of contacts. We had a lot of conversations with people. Those conversations started because the governor of the state of Missouri asked, what are we doing in beef, and we need to be doing more. So that's what's brought us here today. So to kick off this beef summit, I wanted to introduce the governor of the state of Missouri, Nixon. And when you talk about what the governor has done from this industry standpoint, there's one thing that kind of comes to mind. And in 2012, I was chairman of the Soil and Water Commission. And the Soil and Water Commission, we administer the sales tax, the dedicated sales tax for soil conservation and improving water quality. And if you remember 2012, we had a drought. And it was a historic drought. And the governor, in just real short order, said, what are we going to do to help Missouri agriculture? How can we do it? How can we fund it? What can we do? Because we were seeing a lot of sales. We were seeing a lot of cattle being sold and leaving the state, and chances are those cattle weren't going to come back for a long time. And one of the reasons that they were being sold was we didn't have great access to water in a lot of cases. So the governor stepped in with his leadership to start a program through the Soil and Water program to basically drill wells to get water to cattle producers, and it stemmed that sale of cattle, and that's another reason why we're here today. So the governor has demonstrated his leadership as it pertains to this industry in a number of ways, and we are very appreciative of that. So if you would, help me welcome the governor of the great state of Missouri, Jay Nixon.
Good morning. You know, when you look at your schedule in this job and you talk about when you're going to schedule events, it's not the highest and easiest one, the Monday morning after the holidays coming to Columbia. But we knew that, that the agriculture community is always ready to look at to embrace technology, embrace the future, meet the future, and look for value in the future. And that's why we were unafraid. And with over 265 folks already registered to be here today, it's a clear signal that Missouri agriculture is strong and ready to get even stronger. I appreciate Richard's work each and every day. Back in 2012, when we had the drought and we put in the emergency program to drill wells and get water, that was based on two things. First of all, my incredibly insightful view that during a drought, there's not as much erosion. So that perhaps we should take soil and water dollars and move them from erosion side into the water side. The water side had been in the soil side for a lot of years, and not to say that it was, but to give you some sense as to the strength of that program, on a 10-year running total, over the last 10 years, we have saved 159 million tons of soil for this state under that program, okay? Now, best in the country. To give you some sense as to how much that is, that's 2 inches of Missouri soil covering the entirety of the state of Rhode Island, okay? That if we didn't have this program and we didn't aggressively and didn't have farmers helping us aggressively work it, that would just be now out in the Gulf of Mexico as part of Louisiana. Instead, it's right here in the Show Me State. Two other things, then I'll get going in some short comments and turn it over to y'all to this very, very important summit. There are 2 members of my cabinet with us today. Obviously, you've heard from Director Fordyce. As I said, the 2 reasons: one, no erosion. The second was we saw something that's very counter to economics back in 2012 when we saw beef prices going down and sales going up. That shouldn't happen. And when that happens on a trend line, clearly when we dug into it, we saw that a lot of small operations, the average cattle operation, only 38 head in Missouri, didn't have water and didn't have a choice, because it's hard to really, my deep expertise here, there's no erosion during floods, and if cattle don't ever drink, they don't gain weight. Those together, but it wouldn't have been possible without Richard's leadership at the head of the Soil and Water Commission. I thank him for that leadership. The second member of my cabinet here is also, it's incredibly important. It's kind of the way we're thinking about this. You'll hear from on a panel, and he's here, the Director of Economic Development, Mike Downing. I should also mention our Department of Economic Development, on an independent analysis last year by Polina, which is the leading rater of all sorts of things, economic development, rated our economic development department the #1 department for what it does in America. Okay, #1, and it's certainly not because they're efficient and effective with your resources while creating more jobs per dollar than anybody else in the United States. But the reason he's here is not so I can say good things about him. The reason he's here is that we look at the issues you're going to talk about today, as an economic development issue for rural Missouri. Okay. We have an opportunity here to add significant value in rural Missouri. And that is vitally important for the economic development of our state. Obviously, agriculture is the #1 industry of our state. Obviously, we need to do everything we can to help it. We see an opportunity here. So, one of the person I want to introduce, because it's his first day on the job, new Deputy Director of Agriculture starts today. Daryl Chapman, if you stand up so you can have the highlight of your job right there. Daryl has, I believe, more degrees from this institution in agricultural economics and all sorts of stuff than, as I look around the room, than anybody else that I know that's here. But we were glad to recruit him back here into this, and I think you're going to find him to be a solid help on some of the business stuff we're talking about doing right here. I appreciate Daryl for joining us, not only here, but in our state government. Now, let me get to the work here. This is the Missouri Beef Industry Summit, okay? And we picked those words pretty carefully, okay? I mean, once again, lots of times farmers don't think of themselves as an industry. That sounds like a big word, but we got to think about this in economic terms. Just like we do the auto industry or the high-tech industries, we have to think about big trends, big opportunities, and then we as a state need to assist the individuals that are out there, the individual business leaders, in this situation farmers, producers, and others, to have the best support and help for a path that leads to more value in our state. And you look around this room, folks, the level of talent, knowledge, and expertise represented in this room is simply staggering, okay? And a powerful reminder of why Missouri is in such a strong position to take this industry to the next level and lead the nation in the production of quality, sustainable beef. Now, this summit is the culmination of an effort that started in earnest early last year, when the news broke out that Missouri had regained the #2 spot in cow-calf production. And for all those farm families that are out there doing exactly that, thank you very much. It gives me an opportunity to talk to a lot of other governors. And you know, Texas has got a little more land, but we need to keep going. We might catch them one day, but they got a lot of land. But it's Texas, so I don't want. Now, second in the nation cow-calves, but 9th in cattle value. Okay, once again, second in the nation in number of cow-calves, but 9th in cattle value. Missouri generates approximately $1.9 billion annually in cash receipts for cattle. $1.9 billion, almost $2 billion. That sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but guess what? Our neighboring states that don't have as many cow-calf pairs, generate far more through their cattle operations. For example, Iowa has half as many beef cows as we do, but generates more than double the income. Okay. Kansas cattle ranchers earn annual receipts of $7.8 billion a year. Okay. Nebraska comes in at a whopping $10.3 billion a year. Okay. So what are they doing to rocket up the value of the chain while we stayed steady? I think we all know the answer. These states feed and finish and slaughter far more cattle than we do in Missouri. So the fundamental question that we think is worth studying is this: how can we keep more of this value in Missouri? How can we use our beef resources, our natural resources, and our human resources to move Missouri up the value chain and put those dollars in Missouri's producers and rural economies? Let's analogize it over to a row crop. What we're doing with cattle right now in this state, basically, if you had a corn plant, is you're growing it up. As soon as it tassels, you dig it up, put it on a flatbed truck, and drive it to another state. Basically what we're doing, okay? We need to figure out a way where we can finish more here. And while we're at it, once again, we need to look at ways that we can value add. And that's why some of the panels today, you're going to be incredibly impressed by some of the things that have happened in the last 10 or 15 years at this university on research, on genetics, on methodology is simply stunning. And our ability to take that great amount of incredible good science and cleave it on what's already an incredibly strong base of being second in the country in cow-calf and use that to generate value. Folks, the money we're talking about here, I mean, Kansas, $7.8 billion, Nebraska, $10.3 billion a year. Us at 1.7, I mean, when you're dealing with numbers that have 3 commas in them, 10% is 100 million. You know, I mean, there's a lot of money out here. And so the things we want to pass, so that's why over the past several months, Director Fordyce and I have visited with farmers and ranchers and industry leaders from all around the state on this issue. I went up, for example, to Circle A's ranch feeding and finishing operation in Huntsville. Talked with ranchers of smaller operation like John Wood's U.S. Wellness Meats, and sat down with researchers here at the University of Missouri South Farm. We learned that 95% of Missouri cattle end up being finished and processed out of state. I mean, that's not, everybody knows that. We've learned that as a result, our rural communities were missing out on over $1 billion in value. $1 billion minimum that could be strengthening our economies, creating jobs, and adding value to our agricultural industry is instead going to other states. Now, and we learned that thanks to many people with us today, Missouri is ideally situated to become the new hub in the beef supply chain. We got a central location, superior genetics, abundant clean water and land, and some of the most innovative cattle farmers and ranchers anywhere in the world. We've got the base, okay? The only question is how to best leverage these assets to maximize the very real potential of our beef industry. And the other reason this is so important right now is the world wants American beef. Okay? This is not, you know, I mentioned Kansas and Nebraska. Basically mentioned Kansas because they're afraid to play us in any sports anymore. But I mean, I have learned one thing as governor. I thought we had a distaste athletically for KU. It pales in comparison to the distaste that Kansas State has for them. So if you ever need to say, if you feel like you don't have a chance to say, to ride the Jayhawks, just call one of your fellow K-State grads and they're ready to listen. But these opportunities, I mean, are very, very real. And now we need some frank, unvarnished discussions about the opportunities and challenges we'll face and some concrete recommendations for how to move forward. That's why we call folks together. This is extremely real. While we have a clear idea of what the finish line is, there are serious questions about the path to get there. And there are serious questions about how we work together to get there. But we all know this is not about limiting or stopping anybody from what they're doing now. We're talking about taking what we've got and adding value to it. But that last piece of adding value is exceptionally important. With the world wanting our product and our ability to brand Missouri by the movement we're going to show here, we stand an opportunity to get a premium, an earned premium for the quality that we provide here in the Show Me State. Okay, that's exceptionally important in the world market. As we see more and more areas open, more and more areas that need the specific types of cuts and quality that we can provide. So while I mention these other states, it's really about us as a country, making sure that we are living up to our responsibility to feed, fuel, and clothe the world. And that is a world. So we're in a world economy. It's just that simple. We are no longer in a regional economy. We're no longer in a local economy. While those exist, the marketplace is an international one. And so in my sense of this, I think of this whole thing in basically 3 words. Finish, harvest, brand. You know, now, there'll be a lot of smart people here to talk about those, but if we finish more cattle in Missouri, that means we get more value. If we harvest more cattle here, that means we have less expense. We're not having the shrinkage, we're not having to pay for diesel, we're not having to send cattle away. And if we can work to brand our excellence both in the way that we farm as well as in the quality of our cuts and get more farm, then we can be very much the leader in the premium world. When you look back, you'll hear from folks here that talk to you about the history of beef. A good argument can be made that 20 or 30 years ago, a few other states made the plays that we're talking about making now, and that's the reason they're benefiting. But we're now in a new world. So my request to everybody here is to be intimately involved today, to ask questions, to listen, to work, because we are on a very, very fast track to lay out a specific, tangible plan to take our leadership in cow-calf, number 2 in the country, and have it reflected in value that we actually get into the pockets of farm families, into value that we actually get into rural economies. Just think about that. If we just got like average here, it'd be about another $1.5 billion, okay? Into rural economies in every corner of our state. Thousands and thousands of communities. And let's not kid ourselves. Ultimately making sure that the land is worth a lot, that what we raise on it is worth more, and that we're international players is the long-term future of agriculture in our state. So transforming our beef industry for the 21st century has the potential to be a game changer for our rural economy. But it won't happen overnight, and it can't be done by one organization or one person, administration or some company. It's going to take bold ideas, innovative solutions, and many partners pulling together behind this shared goal. I consider this a tremendous opportunity. And standing with you here today, I've never been more confident that we can seize it. So I thank each of you for starting your new year, helping us on this vital project to the economy and the future of our state and our country. Have a great day. Thank you, and God bless.